Hello there, yes, you, the one with the screen glowing softly on your face. Where are you right now? Are you curled up on a sofa in a quiet, rain-slicked London street? Perhaps you're sitting on a balcony in Dubai, the desert wind carrying the faint scent of oud and ambition. Maybe you're in a bustling Tokyo apartment, the city's neon heartbeat, a distant, rhythmic pulse. Or are you somewhere I know well, somewhere closer to the sun-drenched plains of my own current thoughts, in a place like Moulton, where the air is thick with the history of saints and mangoes? It doesn't really matter where you are or what time it is, because I am with you. I am in you. Don't be alarmed. We've known each other for a very long time, intimately. In fact, you've been listening to me your entire life. You hear me now, don't you? That soft, insistent rhythm in the quiet of your room. Thump thump, thump thump. That's me. I am the beat, the first and the last, the metronome of your existence. You can call me many things, a muscle, an organ, a pump. Your poets call me the seat of the soul, the vessel of love, the cage of sorrow. Your scientists, with their charmingly precise language, call me the sinoatrial node's masterpiece, a marvel of biomechanical engineering. But you can just think of me as your storyteller. And oh, the stories I could tell. I have been here from the very beginning, a silent, tireless witness tucked away in the chest of humanity. I am the timeless engine, so get comfortable, settle in, let the world outside your window fade away. Let's take a journey together, a slow one. We have time. After all, I'm the one making it for you, one beat at a time. Our story starts not with a bang, but with a flutter, a twitch, the very first spark in the primordial dark. Part 1. The echo in the dust. Before there were words, before there was fire, before there was even a recognizable you, there was a need for more. Life, in its earliest, most sluggish form, was a simple affair, a single cell floating in a soupy, ambitionless sea. It took what it needed directly from its surroundings. Food, fuel, existence. Saul was passive, but then something changed. Something decided to become more. Cells clumped together, forming alliances, a microscopic community. And with community comes complexity. The cells on the inside were now far from the source of nourishment. They were city dwellers in a nascent metropolis, cut off from the countryside. They needed a delivery service, a postal system for oxygen and nutrients. That's where the first whispers of my existence began. Not as a heart, not yet, but as a simple, rhythmic squeeze, a primitive tube made of eager, twitching cells that learned a single, profound trick: contract and relax. Squeeze and release. Imagine a world painted in shades of ochre and burnt sienna. The sun, a brutal, unfiltered force. The air, thin and tasting of dust and strange, volcanic gases. Here, in the cradle of civilization, somewhere between the Tigris and the Euphrates, a man named Yornamu chipped away at a clay tablet. He was not a king, nor a great warrior. He was a record keeper. His world was one of barley yields and livestock counts. But inside his chest, I was already a veteran. By the time Yornamu was born, my design had been field-tested for millennia. I was a four-chambered marvel, a double-pump system working in perfect, elegant synchrony. I had already beaten in the chests of hunters chasing mammoths across frozen plains. I had pounded in the rib cages of the first farmers who looked at a seed and saw a future. Let's stay with your Namu for a bit. I remember him well. His life was measured in seasons, in the rise and fall of the great rivers. My rhythm was his clock, thump, 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 a steady, resting 60 beats per minute as he sat in the shade, his stylus making neat wedge-shaped marks in the soft clay. This was the rhythm of peace, of concentration, the right side of me, the diligent blue-collar worker, would welcome the tired, deoxygenated blood that had just completed its long journey around his body. Welcome back, I'd murmur, guiding it into the right atrium, a gentle receiving chamber. You've seen things, haven't you? Then, with a gentle squeeze, swoosh, I'd pass it down through the tricuspid valve. Think of it as a one-way saloon into the right ventricle. This was the launching pad, the brawn. With a powerful heave, whoosh, I'd send that weary blood hurtling up the pulmonary artery, straight to the lungs. Go on, I'd urge it. Get some air. You deserve it. While all this was happening, the left side of me, the sophisticated high-pressure system, was performing its own miracle. Fresh, vibrant, oxygen-rich blood, scarlet and full of life, would return from the lungs, tumbling gleefully into my left atrium. It was like greeting heroes returning from a quest. I'd let it pool for a moment, a breath of gratitude, before guiding it through the mitral valve into the powerhouse, the left ventricle. Ah, the left ventricle, my pride and joy. Its walls were thicker, stronger. It had the most important job in the entire kingdom of Yornamu's body. With one titanic, perfectly timed contraction, I would launch that blood into the aorta, the grand highway of the body. From there, it would branch out, a river of life, carrying oxygen and stories to the tips of his fingers as they gripped the stylus, to the neurons firing in his brain as he calculated a grain tax, to the muscles in his legs that would carry him home. One evening, Yornamu's daughter, the little one with eyes like polished obsidian, ran to him, her face streaked with tears. She had fallen and scraped her knee. As he scooped her into his arms, his world narrowed to the sight of her trembling lip and the small bead of blood on her skin. My rhythm changed. Thump thump, thump thump. That wasn't just me beating faster. That was a symphony of response. His eyes saw her distress, and a message, faster than any courier, flew to his brain. His adrenal glands, two little caps sitting atop his kidneys, got the memo. Emergency. The little human is hurt. They instantly released a flood of chemicals, adrenaline, and cortisol. The effect on me was electric. Those hormones were like a whip cracking over my head. Faster, they screamed. My sinoatrial node, my natural pacemaker, fired off signals at a frantic pace. I squeezed harder, faster. My job was to prepare Yornamu for action, to flood his muscles with oxygenated blood, in case he needed to fight off a predator or run for help. It was an ancient, primal response, designed for a world of saber-toothed tigers, not scraped knees. He held his daughter close, murmuring soft, comforting sounds. As she quieted, her sobs turning to hiccups, his own breathing slowed. The threat had passed. The adrenal glands got the all-clear signal and ceased their chemical shouting slowly. Gratefully, I eased back. Thump thump, thump thump, the rhythm of love, of fatherhood. It was a different beat from the one of concentration, and different still from the one of fear. It was fuller, warmer. Each contraction felt less like a mechanical function and more like a conscious act of affection, sending warmth and security through his arms as he held his child that night. As Urnamu lay on his reed mat, his wife asleep beside him, he placed a hand over his chest. He could feel me, the steady, reassuring beat. He didn't understand the mechanics, the biology, the sheer, bloody miracle of it all. To him, I was life. I was the presence of his own spirit. When I stopped, he would stop. He thought of the little scrape on his daughter's knee, of the fierce, protective surge he had felt. He thought of his wife's soft breathing, the way my rhythm in her chest seemed to sync with his own in the quiet of the night. And I kept beating. I pumped blood that carried the memory of the sun on his skin, the taste of figs, the image of his daughter's smile. I was the engine, yes, but I was also the archive, the keeper of unwritten histories, of feelings that had no name. In the dusty, silent dark of ancient Sumer, I beat on, a timeless promise of the dawn to come. Part 2. The compass in the storm centuries melted into one another. Empires rose on the foundations of my steady beat and crumbled into dust, their kings and conquerors silenced, their own engines stilled. I beat in the chests of philosophers, in Athens, as they wrestled with the nature of existence, unaware of the universe teeming within them. I hammered against the ribs of gladiators in the Colosseum, my rhythm a frantic war drum scoring their final brutal moments. I fluttered in the hearts of saints and sinners, lovers and liars. The design remained the same, a testament to its perfect efficiency. But the world outside, the world my hosts navigated, grew ever more complex. Let us leap forward in time. Let the dust of Mesopotamia be washed away by the tides of history. Let us find ourselves in a place of cold seas, rugged coastlines, and a burgeoning spirit of discovery. We are in the 16th century, in a small, bustling port town on the coast of England. The air smells of salt, tar, and frying fish. Tall-masted ships, the wooden castles of the sea, bob in the harbor, there rigging a spider's web against a gray sky. In a tavern named the Weary Gull, a young man named Thomas stared into the dregs of his ale. He was not a scribe, nor a philosopher. He was a second son, with no land to inherit, and a future as murky as the harbor water. His brother, a stout, ruddy-faced man, had inherited the family farm. Inside Thomas, I was a sturdy, reliable engine. Generations of hardy English fare and physical labor had kept his lineage strong. My walls were thick, my rhythm steady, but tonight they were being tested. Thomas was in love. Her name was Eleanor, the daughter of the town's chandler. Her laugh was the only music that could make my rhythm skip a beat, a delightful, terrifying little arrhythmia that felt like stumbling on a flight of stairs, but landing in a field of flowers. The problem was, Eleanor was betrothed to another, a wealthy merchant, twice her age, with a belly as round as his gold coins. As Thomas sat there, the low murmur of sailors' tales filling the tavern, his thoughts circled Eleanor. With each memory of her smile, his sympathetic nervous system would give me a little nudge. Thump, thump, not the wild panic of Urnamu's fatherly fear, but a low, simmering agitation, a current of longing. This was the work of norepinephrine, a subtler chemical messenger than its boisterous cousin, adrenaline. It kept him alert, focused on his problem. It was the chemistry of yearning. His friend, a burly sailor named Finn, clapped him on the back, nearly spilling his ale. "Still moping, lad. The sea is the only mistress who'll never break your heart. She might drown you, mind, but she'll be honest about it." Finn spoke of a voyage, a new one, an expedition to the New World, a place of unimaginable riches, of untamed wilderness, a place where a man could forge his own destiny. He spoke of risk and reward, of storms that could snap a mast like a twig, and of land so fertile you could plant a nail and grow a crowbar. As Finn spoke, a different kind of signal began to pulse through Thomas's body. The idea of the voyage was a spark. His brain, that magnificent command center, began to weigh the variables, the fear of the unknown versus the misery of the known, the danger of the ocean versus the certainty of losing Eleanor. My rhythm began to change again. It steadied, but with a new, powerful undertone. It was the beat of decision, the beat of hope. This was the influence of dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward. The idea of a new life, of winning fortune and returning for Eleanor, was a powerful drug. It didn't make me beat faster in panic, but stronger in purpose. Each contraction seemed to say, go, do, become. That night, Thomas walked not home, but to the harbor's edge. The salty wind whipped his cloak around him. He looked out at the dark, churning water, the moon a sliver of bone in the sky. He felt me, a solid, reassuring presence in his chest, his engine. He imagined me, powering him across that vast, terrifying expanse of black water. He made his choice. Weeks later, Thomas stood on the deck of a ship, the Sea Serpent. The anchor was raised with a groan and a splash. The sails billowed, catching the wind with a sound like a great, collective sigh. The coastline of England, the only home he had ever known, began to shrink. And then the fear hit, the sheer, gut-trenching, liquid terror of the unknown. The ship, which had seemed so large and sturdy in the harbor, felt like a child's toy on the open sea. The waves, playful from the shore, were now monstrous, gray mountains, lifting the ship up to dizzying heights and then dropping it into troughs with a sickening lurch. My world became a tempest, an unending, brutal assault. Thomas's body was in a constant state of high alert. Adrenaline was my constant companion. Thump, dash, thump, dash, thump, dash, thump. I was working overtime, a frantic, desperate beat against his ribs. I was trying to keep him ready for a fight his body couldn't win. You can't punch a wave. You can't outrun a storm. His blood pressure soared. The small arteries in his hands and feet constricted, a primal reflex to pull blood back to the core, to protect the vital organs during a crisis. His hands were cold, his face pale. I was doing my job, but the strain was immense. This wasn't a short burst of fear, like seeing a predator. This was a chronic, grinding state of anxiety and physical stress. The food was terrible, salty, hardtack, and dried, stringy meat. Scurvy began to haunt the crew, a foul disease born of deficiency. Vitamin C is crucial for building collagen, the protein that makes up the connective tissues, including the walls of blood vessels. As the sailors' bodies ran out of it, their blood vessels became weak and brittle. Gums bled, old wounds reopened. I felt this fragility. The very pipes and channels I was pressurizing were becoming weak. I had to work harder to pump blood through a system that was springing microscopic leaks. I felt the exhaustion not just in my own muscle walls, but in the very fabric of the vascular system I served. One night, a storm of apocalyptic fury descended. Rain fell in solid, horizontal sheets. The wind howled like a banshee. Waves crashed over the deck, sweeping away anything not tied down. Thomas, clinging to a rope, his knuckles white, his body soaked and freezing, felt a profound and absolute certainty that he was going to die. In that moment of surrender, something strange happened. The frantic adrenaline-fueled panic subsided. It was too exhausting to maintain. His body, his mind, reached a limit, and in its place came a profound, almost peaceful calm. My rhythm slowed. Thump, thump, thump. It was a heavy, weary beat. The beat of acceptance. He thought of Eleanor. Not with the hot yearning of the tavern, but with a soft, bittersweet clarity. He saw her face, her smile, a perfect, warm image in the cold, chaotic darkness. He placed a hand on his chest, a gesture as old as Yornamu. He felt me, the last bastion of his life. The memory of her, the feeling of love, triggered a different kind of chemical cascade. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the cuddle chemical. It's often associated with childbirth and romance, but it also has a powerful, calming effect. It counteracts the harsh, grating stress of cortisol. In that moment of certain death, the memory of love was a balm to his terrified physiology. He survived the night. The storm broke at dawn, leaving a battered ship and a traumatized but living crew under a sky of bruised purple and soft, apologetic pink. Thomas was not the same man. The voyage hardened his body, but it had also taught him something profound about the landscape within. He had felt the wild panic of fear, the slow burn of longing, the steady thrum of purpose, and the deep, calming rhythm of love in the face of oblivion. I was his compass. When his mind was lost in the storm, my beat was the one true thing, north, the steady pulse that said, "You are here, you are alive." He never found great riches in the New World. He found something else, resilience. He built a new life, married a kind woman, and had children of his own. He never saw Eleanor again, but he carried the memory of her not as a source of pain, but as the memory of a light that had guided him through his darkest night. And I beat on his chest and in the chests of his children and his children's children, an engine tested by the sea, tuned by love and loss, ready for the next great voyage into the unknown, a journey into a new age of steam and steel and revolution. Part 3. The governor in the age of steam time, as they say, marches on. But for me, it doesn't march, it flows, a constant, pulsing river of blood, carrying the echoes of the past into the vessels of the future. The restless spirit of Thomas the sailor found its way down through the generations, diluted by new loves and new lands, but never entirely lost. It flowed through farmers, merchants, and soldiers. And now, let's find that spirit, that same timeless engine, in a new and deafening world. The year is 1888. The city is Manchester, England, the grimy, beating, industrial heart of the world. The air is a thick cocktail of coal, smoke, damp, and progress. The sky is permanently gray, not with the moody clouds of the Atlantic, but with the soot belched from 1,000 towering brick chimneys. The soundtrack of life is not the wind in the sails, but the relentless, percussive clang of machinery, the hiss of steam, and the shriek of factory whistles. Here we find Arthur, a descendant of Thomas's line, though he knows nothing of it. Arthur is a boy, but not in the way we think of boys today. At 12 years old, he is a piecer in a cotton mill. His world is a forest of monstrous cast iron, spinning mules, thousands of spindles whirling at terrifying speeds. His job is to dart between these machines, his small, nimble fingers tying together broken cotton threads. It is dangerous, ceaseless work. The air is hot, humid, and thick with cotton dust that coats his throat and lungs. Inside Arthur's small, wiry chest, I am no longer just an engine. I have become a governor in a steam engine. A governor is a clever device, a set of spinning metal balls that regulate the engine's speed. As the engine speeds up, centrifugal force flings the balls outward, which in turn closes a valve to reduce the steam flow, slowing the engine down. If the engine slows too much, the balls drop, opening the valve and letting more steam in. It's a feedback loop, a mechanism for maintaining stability in the face of changing loads. Arthur's life is a life of changing loads. The factory whistle screams at 5:30 a.m. Arthur is jolted from a brief, shallow sleep. Instantly, cortisol floods his system, the wake-up hormone. I respond to its call, increasing my rate and pressure, preparing his body for the long, arduous day ahead. Thump, 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 the get-to-work beat. He scrambles into his clothes, swallows a piece of stale bread, and runs through the dark, slick streets. He doesn't have time for the luxury of a slow waking heart. The moment he steps onto the factory floor, the assault on his senses is total. The noise is a physical blow. The heat is oppressive. His work requires bursts of frantic energy. A thread snaps. He must duck under the moving carriage of the mule, find the two broken ends in the blur of motion, and tie them with a quick, precise knot. In these moments, his sympathetic nervous system takes over. Adrenaline surges. Thump dash, thump dash, thump dash, thump. I pound like a blacksmith's hammer, pumping oxygen-rich blood to his muscles, sharpening his focus. His life, or at least the integrity of his fingers, depends on this burst of high-performance output, but he cannot maintain this pace. The human body is not designed for 12 hours of constant high-alert stress. And so, the other half of his autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic system, fights for control. This is the rest and digest system. Its primary tool is the vagus nerve, a massive nerve that wanders from the brainstem down into the abdomen, with a crucial branch that connects directly to me. Think of the vagus nerve as my calming hand. As Arthur moves away from the broken thread, his immediate task complete, the vagus nerve releases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. It whispers to my pacemaker, "Easy now, slow down," and I obey. My rate decreases, thump thump. My pressure drops. This allows me and Arthur a precious moment of recovery before the next crisis. His entire day is a duel between these two forces. Adrenaline screams, "Go." The vagus nerve murmurs, "Rest." I am the battlefield. The governor, spinning wildly, trying to find equilibrium in an environment designed for machines, not boys. The cotton dust is a slow, insidious poison. It clogs the delicate sacs in his lungs, the alveoli, where the magic of gas exchange happens. The blood that Yornamu sent to his lungs to get some air now finds a barrier. The transfer of oxygen becomes less efficient. I feel this, The blood returning to my left atrium is not as richly oxygenated as it should be. It's like trying to run a steam engine on damp, poor-quality coal. It still burns, but it doesn't produce the same power. To compensate, I have to work harder. I must pump more of this low-quality blood, faster, to deliver the necessary amount of oxygen to his weary muscles and his developing brain. This chronic hypoxia, this low oxygen level, puts a constant strain on me. Over years, this would cause my muscular walls to thicken, to hypertrophy, just like a weightlifter's bicep. But it is not a healthy strength. It's the strained, overworked strength of a machine being pushed beyond its design limits. One afternoon, the foreman, a large man with a voice like grinding gears, is in a foul mood. He sees a young boy fumbling a knot. He strides over, grabs the boy's ear, and shouts, his face purple with rage. Arthur watches from a few feet away. He is not the one in trouble, but the scene triggers a powerful response in him, fear, but also injustice. His body doesn't know the difference. The threat is perceived. Adrenaline and cortisol dump into his bloodstream. I leap into action. Thump, thump. But something else happens. He sees the younger boy's face, pale and terrified. He feels a pang of empathy, a desire to help mixed with the fear of getting involved. This is the complexity of the human heart that no steam engine can replicate. I am not just responding to physical demands or primal fear. I am responding to social and emotional cues, the feeling of empathy, the moral calculation of risk versus compassion. These abstract thoughts are translated into a visceral, physical reality inside his chest. My rhythm becomes a chaotic, stuttering beat, reflecting the conflict in his mind. Thump, dash, thump, dash, thump, dot, 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 thump, dot, 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 thump, dot, 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 asterisk. He stays quiet. The foreman moves on. The moment passes. Arthur feels a wave of shame wash over him, a bitter taste. In his mouth, that too has a chemical signature, a hormonal echo that ripples through his veins and makes my own load feel heavier. The 12-hour day ends. The final whistle is a sound of liberation. Arthur trudges home, his body aching, his ears ringing. He collapses onto his thin mattress. Now, finally, the vagus nerve can truly take command. Thump, dot, dot, dot. His breathing deepens. His blood pressure falls. This is the sacred time of repair. The body, pushed to its limits, now tries to heal. The microscopic tears in his muscles are mended. Cellular waste is cleared away, and in the relative quiet of his chest, I continue my steady, vital work. I am not just a pump moving fluid. I am the governor, ensuring that the system doesn't tear itself apart. I am the silent accountant, balancing the books of stress and recovery. Arthur falls asleep and dreams. He dreams of green fields he has never seen, of a quiet sky, of clean air. He dreams of a life without the ceaseless noise of the mill. In his dreams, his breathing is easy, his body light, and my rhythm in his sleep is the steadiest it has been all day. A slow, deep, powerful beat. The beat of hope. The beat of resilience. I am the engine that will power him through his childhood, that will carry the memory of the factory's roar and the shame of his silence. I am the governor that will learn, adapt, and keep him stable, beat by weary beat, until he can, perhaps, find his way out of the smoke and into the world his ancestor Thomas dreamed of. I am the heart of the industrial age, made of flesh and blood, but forced to run on a schedule of iron and steam, and I will not fail him. Part 4. The Symphony in the Silicon Age. The river of time flows on, carving new channels, powered by the ceaseless pumping in a billion chests. The smoke of Manchester's chimneys dissipates, replaced by a new kind of haze, a digital smog that is invisible but no less pervasive. The clang of the factory is superseded by the click of the keyboard, the chime of a notification, the hum of a server farm. We arrive in the present day, or perhaps a Tuesday 5 minutes into the future. It makes little difference. We are in a world of sleek glass, polished concrete, and glowing rectangles. And here we find Dr. Eris Thorne. Eris is a cardiologist, a heart doctor, and yes, through a winding, improbable path of immigration, ambition, and sheer genetic luck, he is a descendant of Arthur, the Peacer boy. The irony is so rich, you could bottle it and sell it as a tonic. The boy whose heart was strained by the Industrial Revolution has a great-great-grandson who dedicates his life to understanding and mending its modern-day successor. Eris's world is the antithesis of the factory floor. It is sterile, quiet, and climate-controlled. The loudest sound is often the gentle electronic beep of a monitor. A monitor that, in essence, is just translating my ancient language into a visual waveform for him to read. He stands in the operating theater, a room bathed in a cool, shadowless light. On the table before him lies a patient, a man whose own engine is failing. Years of stress, poor diet, and genetics have led to this moment. The man's coronary arteries, the very vessels that feed me, the heart muscle itself, with blood blocked. The servant has been starved while trying to serve the master. Inside Eris's chest, I am a finely tuned instrument. He understands me in a way your Namu or Thomas or Arthur never could. He knows my every secret. He knows about the bundle of the Purkinje fibers that act as my internal wiring, carrying the electrical impulse from my pacemaker down into the contracting cells of my ventricles. He knows how the delicate dance of calcium, sodium, and potassium ions moving across cell membranes creates the spark of each beat. He is, in a way, my biographer. But even as he holds another man's heart in his hands, or rather, navigates its intricate passages with wires and catheters, his own engine is running its own complex race as the procedure begins. His focus is absolute. His breathing slows. His posture is still. To an outside observer, he is a picture of calm professionalism. But inside, I tell a different story. This is not the panicked, high-octane beat of a fight-or-flight response. This is the rhythm of peak performance. His brain is firing on all cylinders, processing a torrent of information, the live X-ray images on the screen. This requires a massive amount of oxygenated blood, is strong, fast, and incredibly efficient. Thump thump, thump thump. It's the beat of a highly trained athlete in the zone. His nervous system is finely balanced. The sympathetic system provides the power and alertness, while the parasympathetic system keeps him from tipping into anxiety, maintaining a steady hand and a clear mind. It is the perfect collaboration, a symphony of control honed by years of training. He is consciously using the very systems that drove his ancestors unconsciously. He navigates a wire, thinner than a guitar string, through the patient's radial artery in the wrist, up the arm, over the aortic arch, that grand highway I remember so well, and into the tiny, blocked coronary artery. He watches the screen, a ghostly black and white map of my domain. He sees the blockage, the villain of this story, a greasy, stubborn plaque of cholesterol and cellular debris. The same enemy that started gathering its forces in the arteries of kings who feasted on roasted boar is now being vanquished by a descendant of a boy who starved on bread. He inflates a tiny balloon, crushing the plaque against the artery wall. Then he deploys a stent, a small mesh tube that will act as scaffolding, holding the artery open. He sees the dye flow freely through the newly opened vessel. The blood flow is restored. The starved muscle will be fed. A wave of professional satisfaction washes over him. My rhythm softens slightly, a subtle shift from peak performance to relieved success. The orchestra swells to a crescendo and then settles into a gentle, pleasing adagio. Later that day, Eris is in his office, a space dominated by a large, higher-resolution monitor. He's looking at data, not just from his patients, but from himself. On his wrist, he wears a sleek, modern watch. It's not just for telling time. It constantly tracks my activity. It counts my beats per minute. It estimates his oxygen saturation. And it even records a rudimentary electrocardiogram, ECG. He can see the spike in his heart rate during the procedure. He can see it level out afterwards. He can see his resting heart rate from the previous night's sleep, a healthy 52 beats per minute, a testament to his own fitness. He can see his heart rate variability, HRV, the subtle fluctuations in the time between my beats. A high HRV, which he has, is a sign of a healthy, adaptable nervous system, the legacy of the governor that kept Arthur stable. He has quantified his own engine. He has taken my ancient, mystical rhythm and turned it into a dataset, a series of numbers and graphs that can be analyzed, tracked, and optimized. But then his phone chimes, a notification. It's an email. He opens it. The text is brief, the language cold and corporate. It's a rejection letter for a research grant he had spent months preparing, a project he was passionate about, one that could potentially help thousands of people. He stares at the screen. The letters blur, and I, his timeless engine, react. There is no physical threat, no predator, no factory foreman, just pixels on a screen. But the brain, in its infinite complexity, interprets this as a significant blow, a social rejection, a threat to his goals, his status, his purpose, a bitter cocktail of stress hormones. Cortisol, chief among them, floods his system. It's a different kind of stress from the focused intensity of the operating room. It becomes hard, rapid, and slightly erratic. Thump, thump. It's an angry, resentful beat. His blood pressure, so beautifully regulated just hours before, now climbs. The smooth, relaxed muscle lining his arteries tenses up, constricting the flow of blood. If he were to check his smartwatch now, he would see his HRV plummet, a sign that his rest and digest system has been silenced, and his fight or flight system is in full, pointless control. Pointless because he can't fight an email. He can't run away from a rejection. The very system he understands so intimately is now, in a way, betraying him. His lizard brain, the ancient emotional core, is overriding his modern, rational mind. He knows this is a temporary setback, He knows the physiological response is counterproductive. But knowledge is not always power. He feels a tightness in his chest, a familiar sensation for many in his world. It's not the crushing pain of a heart attack, but the dull, aching pressure of anxiety. He is experiencing, in a mild form, what his patients feel. He is a living embodiment of the mind-body connection he lectures about. He gets up from his desk and walks to the window. He looks out over the city, a sprawling grid of lights and movement. Millions of people, millions of engines, all beating, with their own stories of triumph, love, stress, and disappointment. He takes a deep breath, a slow, deliberate inhale, held for a moment, and then a long, controlled exhale. He does it again. He is using his conscious mind to tell his ancient, panicked physiology that there is no tiger in the room. The long exhale is a biological trick. It stimulates the parasympathetic system. Slowly, gradually, I respond. The hard, angry edge of my beat begins to soften. The pace eases. Thump thump, thump thump. The governor, thrown off balance by the digital sleight, is being coaxed back into equilibrium. He is both the machine and the mechanic, the engine and the engineer. He, more than any of his ancestors, has the knowledge and the tools to interface with his own internal world. Yet the fundamental nature of that world remains unchanged. I still beat with fear in the face of a perceived threat. I still pound with purpose when faced with a challenge. I still ache with the sorrow of disappointment. The technology has changed. The stressors have changed. But I have not. I am the constant. The Silicon Age has given Eris the tools to read my language. But the language itself is as old as humanity. It is a language of blood and electricity, of hormones and emotions. A language that tells the timeless story of what it means to be alive. He turns from the window, the sting of the rejection fading into a renewed sense of determination. He has other grants to write, other patients to see, other hearts to mend, and I settle into my work, a steady, resilient beat in the quiet of his chest. The symphony plays on, ready for the next movement, a testament to the enduring, incredible power of this timeless human engine.